What's happening, everybody? On today's show, the Texas versus Texas A&M rivalry just got even spicier as A&M coach Jim Schlossnagle jumped ship from the Aggies to the Longhorns just 24 hours after playing for the College World Series championship. Locked On SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what's up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along on today's show. The big news of baseball coach Jim Schlossnagle leaving A&M for the Texas Longhorns. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to Everydayers. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by the Game Time app. Download Game Time and create an account. Use our code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. All right, let's dive into the big news of the last 24 hours as Texas A&M head coach Jim Schlossnagle, who just led Texas A&M to its first men's College World Series championship series, is leaving to become the next baseball coach at rival Texas. Schlossnagle agreed to a deal with the Longhorns just a day after a 6-5 loss to Tennessee in Game 3 ended the Aggie season, falling just one win shy of their first national championship ever. The loss compounded by Schlossnagle's defection to their bitter rival, reuniting as conference foes starting this year in the SEC. Now, Schlossnagle goes 135-62 in his 3 seasons at A&M, including 2 men's College World Series appearances and a 53-15 record this season, tied for the second most wins in program history. He did an incredible job at A&M. And look, on Monday, hours before the Aggies and Vols threw the first pitch in their final Game 3 of the men's College World Series, Texas announced AD Chris Del Conte and head coach David Pierce made a mutual decision to part ways. David Pierce was 297 and 162 in 8 seasons at Texas, went 36-24 this season, and the Longhorns season came to an end back on June 2nd when they lost their second game in the College Station Regional. So first, the question was raised on a day where Texas A&M is playing Game 3 of a College World Series championship, were the Longhorns trying to upstage their rival in Texas A&M by announcing their job opening. Everyone who saw this assumed it was a calculated move on the part of Texas A&M, or Texas rather, to steal some headlines away from Texas A&M. And the rumors started. Would they be targeting one of the 2 guys coaching in this championship, Tony Vitello at Tennessee or Jim Schlossnagle at A&M? And the irony here is, somebody brought up, you go back and look at when Texas hired their football coach a couple years ago. They fired Tom Herman on January 2nd, 2021, and 12 hours later, they hired Steve Sarkisian as the next head football coach. So Chris Del Conte moves quick, and they moved quick here. On Monday night, the Vols and Vitello, they went on to win the game 6-5, winning their first College World Series ever on Rocky Top. Congrats to them. We'll talk about them in a little bit. But as soon as the game ended, and honestly before that, Schlossnagle's future plans became a topic of discussion. And just his 3rd season with the Aggies, like we said, led the program to 2 College World Series appearances and their first ever College World Series final. Now, credit to Richard Zane of Texags. After the game on Monday night, he asked the question that was on everybody's minds.
Coach, with respect to the difficult outcome tonight, but with the rumors circulating today about a specific job opening, what do you have to say about your future in Aggie land?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty selfish of you to ask me that question, to be honest with you. But I left my family to be the coach at Texas A&M. I took the job at Texas A&M to never take another job again, and that hasn't changed in my mind. And that's unfair to talk about something like that. That'd be like you asking Montgomery if he's going to sign in the draft. But I understand you got to ask the question, but I gave up a big part of my life to come take this job, and I've poured every ounce of my soul in this job, and I've given this job every single ounce I can possibly give it. So write that.
Coach, thank you very much.
So Schloss was fired up when he gave that answer. Now, even before that final question, Schlossnagle glowingly spoke about being at A&M. He kept his opening comments saying he was honored to be at Texas A&M, honored to be part of the 12th man, called it a special experience every year. Also praised Aggie fans for being, quote, locked in throughout the postseason, especially in Omaha. Said he was not surprised by the amount of success for A&M so early in his tenure because he thinks A&M is an awesome place. Interesting comments. You know, he didn't quite go as far as Tommy Tuberville saying they'll have to carry me out of here in a pine box, but he did say, like, this is the job I always wanted. What he didn't say was there's another job he's always wanted. And so interesting thing, Texas had been long rumored to have interest in Schlossnagle with his record at TCU and A&M and his relationship with Chris Del Conte. And this is the big piece here. Schlossnagle and Chris Del Conte were together at TCU for many years, and according to reports, are close friends. So in Austin, he will reunite with Chris Del Conte, who was his boss at TCU. Del Conte was the AD at TCU from 2009 to 2017, a period that overlapped with Schlossnagle, who was the head baseball coach from 2004 to 2021. And again, multiple reports that they are very close. Now, just 2.5 years ago, we had Coach Schloss on the show right here on Locked On SEC, and he talked about his decision to leave a great spot at TCU for Texas A&M at the time. And looking back at it, these comments are pretty interesting. Here's a bit of what Schloss said to us back 2 years ago when he took the A&M job.
Texas A&M, I know you talked about it in your press conference when you took the job, but why now? Why was this job the right time at the right moment?
Yeah, you know, I think obviously 18 years at TCU was amazing, and you know, 5 trips to the College World Series. I feel like that, you know, definitely left, you know, Fort Worth better than I found it, and that's not because of me, but it was because of great players and assistant coaches and a phenomenal commitment from a great university. Both of my children still go to school there, so I have and will forever have incredible fondness for TCU. But for me, both personally and professionally, at 51 years old, I just felt like it was a time personally where I, wanted a little bit of a life change. And professionally, it was, I've always been attracted by, I hate to say the building of something because, Texas A&M's baseball program is already in a really great position. Rob Childress did a phenomenal job here. 13 straight trips to the NCAA tournament, Coach Johnson and Coach Chandler before him. But I guess it would be building on something and the opportunity to compete, not just in the best baseball conference, but the best division of the best baseball conference in the country in the SEC West. And to do that in the state of Texas, 2 hours and 15 minutes from my children in Fort Worth, and at a university that is just as committed as you can be to winning at the highest level, doing it the right way. And I really had no idea the power and the strength of Aggie land and, 510,000 former students. So it was just I have a saying that I try to live by sometimes. If you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much room. And certainly I did leave something on the table at TCU. We never won a national title. Or at least during my time, but I'm sure, that program is going to continue to succeed. And, our job now is to build on the past and get Texas A&M back to Omaha and playing, winning the final game.
So that again was our interview with Jim Schlossnagle just 2.5 years ago when he took the A&M job. And, in perspective, just interesting hearing those comments. His goal was to, get back to Omaha and get to the World Series. And he said his, regret was he never won a title there at TCU. Came really close to winning a title at A&M. And now he will head to be the guy at UT. And Texas making it official. We'll get to that in just a second, but I did want to read a little bit. A&M pitcher Chris Cortez tweeting out last night, this should not take away from what this 2024 Texas A&M baseball team has done. The players make the team, not the coaches. Less than 24 hours ago, we were one of the last 2 teams standing, playing for a national championship. No, nothing can take that away from us. Robert Barons of Good Bull Hunting tweeted out, "It's a business, and I get it if Schloss wanted to make a move, but he could have had Texas delay the Pierce firing until after the national championship game if he had wanted to. Leaving is one thing. Being complicit and creating a distraction for your team as you're trying to win a title is quite another." One fan responded, "Look, A&M fans have every right to be upset, but he is leaving it way better than it was when he got here. Tons of money for a stadium renovation, almost won our first College World Series, turned the program around. They'll get a solid coach, but we will be okay." So one of the few, non-freaking out tweets I saw from an A&M fan, level-headed thoughts. So now the big question is, what is Texas getting? Well, in 23 seasons as a head coach, Schlossnagle has a 945 and 451 career record, 7 appearances in the Men's College World Series, a 59-36 record in NCAA tournament games, was the Baseball America National Coach of the Year in 2016. And on Monday night after the loss to Tennessee, and with David Pierce out of the picture, the Longhorns really started to change their focus to Jim Schlossnagle. And Kirk Bowles of the Houston Chronicle reported Schloss had wanted to come to Texas from TCU, but the Longhorns never called him back 8 years ago when they hired David Pierce. Kirk Bowles said he believes Texas has always been Schlossnagle's dream job. And now with his buddy there as AD at Texas, it was just a match made in heaven. For those of you guys wondering, these two teams will play each other in the future. The SEC decided on permanent scheduling options starting with the 2025 season. Each SEC team will have 2 permanent opponents each year and then rotate the rest of the schedule. Well, for A&M, their 2 permanents are Texas and LSU. And for Texas, their 2 permanents are A&M and Oklahoma. So, yes, we will see Texas versus Texas A&M in baseball this year. It will be weird. It will be awkward. It will be awesome. The craziest part here is not even 50 hours prior, the Aggies were undefeated in the postseason and were just 7 outs away from winning their first men's sports title since before World War II. Texas putting out the press release officially on Tuesday evening, saying that Schlossnagle's introductory press conference set for Wednesday at 11 a.m. at texassports.com. Chris Del Conte in a statement saying, "What a great day it is to be a Longhorn. We're absolutely thrilled to have Coach Schlossnagle join our Longhorn family. And like everything we do, we couldn't have made this happen without the incredible leadership of our chairman of the Board of Regents, our school president, la-di-da-di-da." He said, "I've known Schloss for a long time. There's no better coach, program builder, and leader in the game. The best part is he's an even better person. When we were looking for our next baseball coach, we knew he would be the perfect choice. Our players, our staff, and UT community and Longhorn Nation will absolutely love him. The future of our program's in great hands. Excited to have him join our elite group of coaches as we prepare to head into the Southeastern Conference." So, look, man, this UT versus A&M rivalry is going to get even more spicier now with, basically you came in and big brother to A&M. You stole their coach. And A&M's got all the money in the world. Texas got all the money in the world. It wasn't just a money move. This was a move, with obviously the links to Chris Del Conte. Obviously, Texas has a proud tradition and history of baseball, bunch of championships and all that. Wonder how much that tied in. So it stinks. If you're an A&M fan, it stinks. You just went as far as you've ever gone and came an eyelash of winning a title. And now Texas Longhorns came in and swooped in and stole your guy. It sucks. But now the attention becomes, who could the Aggies hire? We're going to discuss that next. Some names that are already being thrown about. Expect the Aggies to move very quickly to get their replacement. More Locked On SEC coming your way here in just a second. But first, this episode presented to you by our friends over at the Game Time app. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. Killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets. From those last-minute deals like we talked about, you save up to 60% off buying last minute for sporting events and other things. Of course, the all-in pricing. I like that feature. You toggle that on the app, and it shows you the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkouts. Of course, the seat views. You get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. And that lowest price guarantee on Game Time, they will credit you 110% of the difference. And your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app today. Create an account. Use our code LOCKEDONCollege. Get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem our code, LOCKEDON, college, COLLEGE. Get $20 off. Download Game Time today. It is last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, as we dive back into it, thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to everydayers. Keep checking us out each and every week. We're here for you at least 3 days a week throughout this month of June. Of course, in July, things will pick up. We'll have a bunch of more player interviews and much, much more as we count down to SEC Media Days. So we're going to have you covered with a ton of stuff. But big story the last 24 hours. I get it, college baseball. We're normally talking mostly football here, but in this A&M versus Texas rivalry runs deep, and from the Southwest Conference to the years in the Big 12 to now coming to the SEC, it is there's bad blood there, and it's going to continue on. Before we get to who the Aggies could hire, I did want to pass this along. Quick shot at our buddy Billy Lucci. Cold takes exposed, or freezing cold takes. They jumped on this. Billy tweeted back in June of 2021. First comes the commitment, then the right coach, and the culture change. Jimbo with 1 natty in a playoff, Buzz Williams with an Elite 8, 3 Sweet 16s, and Jim Schlossnagle with 5 College World Series appearances have been in Aggie land a combined 5 years and 5 minutes. Next come the championships. Unfortunately, Jimbo was fired with one of the most massive buyouts of all time. Schlossnagle leaves you for your bitter rival. Buzz Williams still alive. We'll see what he can do, but freezing cold takes. Grabbing that one. All right. I kid, Billy. I just thought that was pretty funny. All right, let's dive into who the Aggies could hire here. And I've seen some people kind of put out some articles throwing some names around. Of course, the Aggies coming off their best season in program history, first ever appearance in the College World Series Finals. So they got a lot of momentum. The A&M head coaching gig still going to be well thought of with a lot of resources in the athletic department that will make a sizable offer. And so one thing to pass along, Kendall Rogers of D1 Baseball did report last night that Aggie Baseball Associate Head Coach and Recruiting Coordinator Nolan Kane is expected to join the Texas baseball staff. He said Kane was an excellent recruiter for the Aggies, LSU before that, and he will not be a head coaching candidate in College Station. Trev Alberts releasing a statement. He said, after our baseball team arrived back in College Station, Jim informed me of his desire to leave Texas A&M. While we're certainly disappointed, we're grateful for his contributions and helping our baseball program reach unprecedented heights. Baseball success is important to everyone associated with A&M. We will not stop in our pursuit of excellence, and our commitment to baseball will not waver. On behalf of A&M Athletics, we wish Jim and his family well as they move on to another challenge. We will find a great leader and excellent coach to head up this proud Aggie baseball program. A very classy statement there from Trev Alberts. I don't know what more you can do. You don't want to say anything that's going to feed that rivalry even more, although the previous AD may have done that at A&M. He liked to share his opinion sometimes on things. But Trev Alberts, like I said, classy statement from him. And so now, who are some candidates that the Aggies could look at? Well, a couple people putting out some reports on potential names that you can look at. One name that came up, Nick Mingione over at Kentucky. He is the reigning SEC Coach of the Year. Helped get Kentucky their first ever College World Series this past season, and one of the fast rising coaches in the country. 45 years old, been with the Wildcats 8 seasons, took them to 3 super regionals now. They'd never been there before him, and finally made it to Omaha for hosted their first ever super regional. They won that, won the SEC East. And before getting his first head coaching gig at Kentucky, he was an assistant at Mississippi State for many, many years. Bulldogs made 5 NCAA tournament appearances there. They were College World Series runners-up in 2013. So Nick Mingione, great track record. He would be a great fit there, but you got to think Kentucky's going to do everything they can to try to keep him. Rob Vaughn over at Alabama, young guy, 36 years old, still new on the SEC baseball scene, but just had a nice first season at Alabama, brought them to the NCAA tournament in his first season, and a 6-year tenure at Maryland prior to that. Had much success there, and he is from Corpus Christi, so he's got roots in the state of Texas. So Rob Vaughn's name being thrown out there. Skip Johnson over at Oklahoma. There was one report I saw that said, had Jim Schlossnagle turned down Texas, that their backup plan was probably going to be Skip Johnson at Oklahoma. He's a native of Denton, Texas. and he's had some really, really good pitchers at Oklahoma in his time there. And he had to right the ship after some lackluster years under Pete Hughes. Brought Oklahoma to 4 NCAA tournaments and College World Series runner-up in 2022. 57 years old, a little bit older from the other guys, but again, great track record. 229, 153 win-loss total. Couple other names. Dan Heefner over at Dallas Baptist. Of course, I mean, great success there. Dallas Baptist just seems to be in the tournament every year. Been there since 2008, was an assistant before that. And with the Patriots, took the school of just over 4,000 students to the NCAA tournament 13 times, super regionals twice, 652 wins there, and he's had 52 players drafted out of DBU. Now think of the resources he would get at A&M and what he could do with that. Again, it's not the splashiest of hires coming from a small school like Dallas Baptist, but man, that guy seems like to have the success he's had there at Dallas Baptist. What do you think he could do at an A&M? And then one other name to keep an eye on here, Max Weiner, the A&M assistant coach. Aggies likely going to try to go get a big name, but I've seen a lot of fans pushing for Max Weiner. He's 29 years old, just getting a start, but look at what he did with this pitching staff this past season at A&M. Really had an incredible showing there with that pitching staff, and he's been talked up a lot. Fans love him. So, again, this is one that might be like, this is like the Mike Elko, right? Like, well, at least Elko was a head coach before Duke, but it was like the fan favorite, right? Everybody was like, oh, we'd love to have that. So we'll see. Another one sounds like Oregon's Mark Wasikowski could be a name to watch as well. He was just in College Station for the Ducks Super Regional versus A&M. So another name to keep an eye on there. So we'll see what happens, but I expect A&M probably not going to drag their feet on this. I would think that they want to get a guy in place here real soon because, of course, transfer portal, you got to start doing damage control in this roster. A lot of kids jump at chip and, got the draft coming up and all this. You got to play some damage control with those kids. So a lot to take care of. And hey, before we wrap up this segment, we do have to show some love because we did not do a show yesterday. And how about Tennessee baseball, man? Hunter Ensley barreled around third base. His injured hamstring carried him towards home plate. And the Vol outfielder ripped past the tag from A&M catcher Jackson Appel, tapped the plate with his left hand, ripped his helmet from his head, and an iconic moment as Tennessee went on to win the Men's College World Series. And the Vols are national champions for the first time in program history. They won that game 6-5, held off A&M, and reached the highest mark in this remarkable rise under Tony Vitello. Tennessee went 60-13, the first national number one seed to win the national title since 1999, the first 60-win SEC team in history, and it's Tennessee's first national title in a team sport since women's indoor track and field in 2009. They did have a parade and downtown celebration on Tuesday evening. The parade went down the street there on campus, ended at Market Square. It was originally set to begin at the bridge, but a state inspection revealed a compromised element during a report, so they had to kind of change it up a little bit. But the Vols hosted a citywide celebration, shut down several downtown roads. They had decorations all over town, and Tony Vitello and company very grateful to the Vol fan base for coming out and showing out. And man, I'm sure Vol fans ecstatic winning their first College World Series and getting to hang a banner. If you listen to what Peyton Manning said after the game the other day, this is just a start. A&M's just scratching the surface. They're about to start going on a run of many titles. And I know Josh Heupel and Rick Barnes were in attendance, and they were probably like, hey, Peyton, cut it, bro. Don't put any more pressure on us. But nonetheless, cool moment for Vol fans, and congratulations to you guys. More Locked On SEC coming your way in just a second. We got some recruiting tidbits we will hit on coming up in just a second. All right, roll along here, Locked On SEC. Hey, check out our friends over at Locked On Sports Today, streaming for you 24/7 on YouTube and the Amazon Fire TV channels app. All the biggest stories in the sports world streaming for you. Locked On Sports Today. Search that and you will find it. All right, let's dive into some recruiting tidbits before we call it a show here, because we got a ton to discuss. So let's dive into it. We're going to start first with the Georgia Bulldogs, as one of the top prospects in the state of Georgia committed to the Dogs, Isaiah Gibson, highly sought after 2025 recruit. He's 6'3", 205-pound edge defender, announced Monday. He's committed to Kirby Smart. ESPN 24/7 on 3. They all rate him as a top 30 recruit, top 30 overall recruit in 2025. He's rated number 151 overall. He's a 4-star, number 36 overall in the country, according to 24/7 Sports. He's a 5-star prospect and number 27 overall in the On3 industry ranking. So, again, kind of different services ranking him all over the place, but it's the second commitment for Gibson this year. Just last week, he decided to reopen his commitment after a verbal pledge to USC, but Georgia got him on campus in mid-May. He checked out Ohio State following his USC decommitment and came back to Athens for another Georgia visit and committed to the Dogs. So we'll see if he holds strong to it. But Isaiah Gibson, edge defender, committing to the Georgia Bulldogs. Now, also on Monday, Georgia had another in-state prospect from Dontrell Glover, a 4-star offensive lineman in the class of 2025. He's 6'2", 315 pounds. Originally committed to Alabama last April, but reopened his commitment after Nick Saban retired. And primarily played left tackle as a junior. He is rated as an interior offensive lineman for the next level. 24/7 Sports Composite has him as a 4-star and the 16th overall inside offensive lineman in the country. So that gives, like I said, gives Georgia 15 verbal commitments so far. 24/7 Sports Composite has him ranked at number 4. Had a couple decommitments the other day. We had LSU lose a commitment from the class of 2025, Jabari Antoine, a top 100 player, previously committed to LSU in January, reopened his recruitment and took some visits, or has some visits with Miami and Florida State. Still keeping LSU in his consideration. He's 6'1", 170 pounds, so we'll see what he ends up doing. Meanwhile, over at Ole Miss, they had 3 Ole Miss class of 2025 commits decommit on Monday. 4-star wide receiver Jerome Miles, 3-star linebacker Corey Amos, and 4-star wide receiver Dylan Alfred, all announcing their decommitments. So, look, it's June. Still got plenty of time to do some damage control there, but pretty surprising there for Lane Kiffin, who doing a great job on the transfer portal and doing a pretty good job recruiting, but losing 3 guys there. Over at Oklahoma, they picked up a commitment for the class of 2026 in 4-star quarterback Jaden O'Neal from the California area. He had offers from Ohio State, Miami, Florida State, and he's considered one of the best high school quarterbacks in the country, number 64 overall player, and the number 6 quarterback in the country for the class of 2026. So we'll see. Long time out, but 6'3", 200 pounds, and Oklahoma now has they have elite quarterback prospects committed in 2025, 2026. 4-star quarterback Kevin Sperry has been committed to the Sooners since March of 2023. And now they pick up Jaden O'Neal for the class of 2026. Now, not to be outdone, Texas Longhorns picked up a commitment for the class of 2026. They already got their quarterback commit, 5-star QB Diabell, committed last week. Well, on Tuesday, they got 4-star wide receiver from Texas, Chris Stewart, announcing he is committed to the Longhorns and joining Bell in that group. So, interesting, Longhorns and Sooners adding some offensive pieces to their class of 2026 already. And a quick transfer portal note, the Division I Council voting to introduce proposals that would change the notification of transfer windows for undergrad students in Division I men's basketball, women's basketball, and football from a total of 45 days to 30 days. Basically, they say athletes whose head coaches leave their school would still have an additional 30-day window after their coach departs. FBS and FCS oversight committees will finalize a recommendation for transfer portal dates by October. The decision to introduce these proposals is not final until the meeting concludes on Wednesday. But they said basically the majority of student athletes enter the portal within the first 4 weeks of the window opening anyway. And according to data gathered over the first 2 years with transfer windows, men's and women's basketball in 2023, 70% of undergrad student athletes on scholarship who transferred were into the portal in the first 4 weeks. And that percentage increased to 82% this year in men's basketball and 86% in women's basketball. So I think they're just trying to kind of limit this a little bit to go from 45 days to 30 days on having the window open. So we'll see what ends up happening there, but we'll pass along once they come to a final decision on that. All right. Thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to everydayers. Come on back and check us out throughout the week. And hey, for your second listen, check out Locked On Sports Today, their first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, on the Amazon free Fire TV, and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today. I'm Chris Gordy. This has been Locked On SEC. We'll talk to you guys later in the week.